You've seen them in your backyard, peacefully munching on your prize-winning petunias. Maybe you've even had one eat from your hand. They seem so gentle, so tame. So why aren't we all chowing down on venison burgers with the same gusto as beef burgers? Our ancestors managed to domesticate wild aurochs, massive, intimidating beasts, and turn them into the docile cows we know today. So why not deer? At first glance, it seems simple. Deer are everywhere. They're herbivores, they live in groups, and we've been hunting them for food since, well, forever. They seem like a shoe-in for the burger business. Yet, our grocery store aisles are dominated by beef, pork, and chicken. You might think it's just about money, that it's not profitable. And while economics, market demand, and regulations are absolutely major reasons deer farming remains a niche industry, they aren't the whole story. The real answer is a fascinating mix of biology, behavior, and a deep-seated cultural divide. To get why we don't farm deer like cows, we first have to clear up a big misconception about what taming an animal really means. That deer in your yard that doesn't run away when you open the back door? It isn't domesticated. It's habituated. And there's a huge difference. Habituation is just a learned behavior. It happens within one animal's lifetime. A deer figures out that you aren't a threat and that your garden is an all-you-can-eat buffet. It's a behavioral change in an individual animal. Domestication is a different beast entirely. It's a genetic process that plays out over thousands of years and countless generations. It's a species-wide evolutionary shift where humans selectively breed animals for desirable traits, a calm disposition, a willingness to breed in captivity, and a social structure we can work with. The cows, sheep, and goats on farms today are the result of this long, deliberate partnership. They are fundamentally, genetically different from their wild ancestors. When we apply this framework to deer, things start making sense. Scientists have a sort of checklist for why some animals were successfully domesticated while others weren't. Deer, it turns out, stumble on several key hurdles. It's not that people haven't tried, it's that the deer's own nature fights back at every turn. The first major barrier is the deer's hardwired response to danger. It has a hair-trigger flight instinct. Its primary, and almost only, response to a perceived threat is to bolt. Not to fight, not to stand its ground, but to explode into motion. This isn't just being skittish, it's a deeply ingrained survival instinct honed over millions of years. This extreme flight response makes them incredibly difficult and expensive to manage. A standard farm fence is a minor inconvenience for an animal that can clear ridiculously high barriers. To reliably contain deer, you need specialized, expensive fencing that would be complete overkill for cattle. Even if you manage to keep them penned, the stress of confinement is a serious problem. This brings us to the second and perhaps most critical biological barrier, capture myopathy. This is a condition where extreme stress, fear, or overexertion triggers a chain reaction of physiological changes that cause severe muscle damage. The struggle of being trapped, handled, or even just moved can be enough to cause it, sometimes with fatal results. While well-managed farms can reduce this risk, it makes the day-to-day handling required for large-scale farming a high-stakes, high-cost endeavor. Then there's their social structure. The idea that we just became the leader of the herd is a bit of an oversimplification. The reality is that the ancestors of cattle and sheep had social hierarchies that were more tolerant of human management. Deer's social structures are different. Outside of the mating season, many species live in separate male and female groups, and their hierarchies are less suited to human control. And we can't forget the danger. A doe might seem gentle, but a buck during the autumn rut is flooded with testosterone and becomes one of the most unpredictable and aggressive animals you could encounter, posing a real risk in a farm setting. Now, some of you are probably thinking, but what about reindeer? And that's a fantastic point. The Sámi people of northern Scandinavia have herded and managed reindeer for centuries, using them for meat, milk, and transport. Reindeer are the one member of the deer family that can be considered domesticated, or at least, semi-domesticated. But the relationship between the Sámi and their reindeer is very different from a Texas cattle ranch. Many herders follow their reindeer on long, seasonal migrations instead of keeping them in fixed pastures. The reindeer's more group-oriented social structure is also key. Their instinct to stick together means a human presence doesn't trigger the same individual panic we see in other deer species. Even so, reindeer are only partially domesticated. They retain far more of their wild behaviors than any breed of cow and can easily rejoin wild caribou populations. Archaeological evidence suggests this unique partnership may have begun around 2,000 years ago. The case of the reindeer doesn't prove that deer are easy to domesticate. It proves how incredibly difficult the process is. It highlights that even the most successful example is more of a negotiated partnership than the top-down control humans have over traditional livestock. If the biological hurdles weren't enough, one of the biggest barriers might just be us. It's a cultural issue that comes down to a simple perception. In much of the world, deer are for hunters, and cows are for farmers. For thousands of years, hunting was a cornerstone of human survival, and deer were a primary source of food that fueled our evolution. Today, that legacy continues as a deeply rooted tradition for millions. For many hunters, it's about connecting with nature and sustainably sourcing food. In this context, the deer is a symbol of the wild, a prize earned through skill and patience. For some, farming deer feels like a violation of that tradition. In parts of Europe, the rise of red deer farming has been met with controversy from some hunting communities, who feel that turning this iconic wild animal into fenced livestock diminishes its cultural value. The venison on your plate feels different if it came from a farm instead of a forest. One is dinner, the other is a quest. This cultural divide also shapes our entire food system. Beef is the default. It has a massive industrial infrastructure and a centuries-old culinary tradition built around it. Venison, by contrast, remains a niche product. Many consumers find it unfamiliar or perceive it as gamey, and it lacks the mass-market demand of beef. While the global market for venison is growing, it's still a tiny fraction of the beef industry. The entire system, from supply chains to consumer habits, is simply built around other meats. So, why don't we farm deer like cows? The answer is as complex and elusive as the animal itself. It's because of their biology, a body and mind built for explosive flight, not calm confinement. It's because of the immense practical and economic challenges of trying to contain and manage an animal biologically programmed to escape. And it's also because of concerns around diseases like chronic wasting disease. But more than anything, it's because of the story we tell ourselves about what a deer is. For many, it remains a powerful symbol of the wild, an animal defined by its freedom. While deer farming does exist as a successful, albeit niche, industry in places like New Zealand, it hasn't scaled globally because it has to contend with the animal's nature, our culture, and powerful economic realities. The story of the deer is a powerful reminder that domestication isn't a simple conquest. It's a two-way street. We managed to turn giant wild beasts into a global food source, but for thousands of years, the deer has consistently refused to sign the contract. It remains stubbornly, magnificently, itself. And maybe, that's exactly how it should be.